Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Akibatun lil Mustaqim Rubana ala ila Badalimin. Sayyidina Muhammadin Sa'allah Allahu Ta'ala wa salamu alayhi. Innani amtanani shukri. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Le ikwani wati fi din. Assalamu ala mani tabahuda le ikwani wati fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean, wa kuli makan. Halim wa salim bikum on the Rama, to my full community and to my African brothers and sisters everywhere you may be. And I'm going to continue on here with the saga we know as Kemet and Egypt is ours. And now I'm bringing you back. I just talked about the last program about the Jews, Hebrews, and how we got the term Israel, and what happened and how this is an African story and how it was covered up and so forth. Now I'm bringing you back into Kemet. We're going to talk about part of the black. I shouldn't say black, because everybody's black. From the beginning, everybody's black. But rarely ever talked about is the West African exodus that transpired. And you have many so-called scholars who don't talk about this at all. But we know now, as I give you all the evidence, that the ancient Egyptians were West Africans. No doubt about this. I've given you a plethora of information. Now, I'm going to give you something, brothers and sisters, some deep analysis of this. What I noticed as you study, and I pray to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and I ask questions, and I try to seek answers, and I start to hit the books, I start to do things and try to figure out when they left and so forth. What always intrigued me about West Africa in particular is that you notice in the areas that we live, just about everybody is related. The ethnic groups that are present, all the languages are similar. You go to, okay, let's look at Nigeria in particular. You see the ethnic groups there. You have Tiv, Igbo, Yoruba. You have Fula people. You have Hausa. You have a whole bunch of people, ethnic groups. But if you notice, you have these languages are very similar. You look at Ghana. You see Ghana. You see the Asante people. You see the Fante people. You see the Akan. And the subsidiaries of the Akan people, and you see Ga. Ga is much different, but it is still in that family. I started noticing this difference. Now, what I believe has happened is in this Exodus, brothers and sisters, when here's ancient Kemet, when they went over to your left, going to the west, which we know as West Africa, going to west, they hit West Africa. They went into groups that they live with inside Kemet. This is why you have all the similarities. And what I'm going to touch on today, the Western Corridor, and we have all of these groups, okay, and their languages are very similar. They have intermarried. And we looked at them inside Kemet. They all seem to adopt the same philosophy, so to speak, and they borrow from one another, and it looked like they left together to end up into Takrur region. And this is what is, to me, is fascinating, which I believe has transpired. So if you look at the Gambia, this is before we have all of these countries, but we're talking about modern day, so we can have a synopsis of this. We look at the people in the Western Corridor, and you see Kemet, and then you see the Fula, Wolof, Sere, the Amazigh. The Amazigh, as you know, the people from the North Africa, the Tuareg, and so forth and so on. We will not use the negative term you heard me say 1,000 times, about Berber. It's wrong. It's derogatory. The Dogon, Sinike, there's others to this. I didn't put the Hapular who are foot to full of people anyway. But I'll kind of discuss them. As they left, I believe, at almost the same time. And I'll show you evidence to suggest this. The only one who did not make the trek to West Africa at the first is the Amazigh, because the Amazigh went across North Africa. And I believe some of the Futafula clans went across North Africa also and settled. But the rest of it circled around through West Africa. So this connection here, we have this. All of these ethnic groups outside of the Amazigh have language that are very similar. And they have similar beliefs. And this group here was the catalyst to what I showed you here. When they invaded Spain in 711, the Muslims, under Tariq ibn Ziyad, rahimahullah, and he went down south and got the Mujahideen, new, the Muslim warriors. This is the core group that left Kemet, made their way to Takrur, which we know Takrur region, if you heard my classes, it's northern Senegal, southern part of Mauritania. This group here lived together. They left Kemet together. They went and traveled and all ended up in the Takrur region. They all intermarried in this region. When the Futafula became Muslims, the others followed suit behind them. When they were in unison, most are Muslims now. The Tariq ibn Ziyad, when he left Maghreb, Morocco, he came down south and got them. They went up north, and you know the story. They went into Andalus and kicked butt, and they established the beginning of the Islamic sultanates there in what we know modern day Spain. We call Al-Andalusia or Al-Andalus, whatever you want to call that. So this is a very, very interesting development. If you look at West Africa, brothers and sisters, if you look at all the countries and the ethnic groups, you notice the similarities. I believe when they left Kemet to make the exodus, those groups left together and they went together. The Akan, the Fanti people, the Kumasi, the Ga, all of them traveled together. They ended up in Ghana together. In Nigeria, we know today, modern Nigeria, we look at the people, the Igbo, Yoruba, minus the Fulani, not them, the Yoruba, the Hausa, and so forth. They traveled together and they ended up in a region we know today as Nigeria. This is why we have similar customs and the languages are similar. You look at the Gambia, the same thing. You have a nucleus. You look at the Senegambia region. You see the Sinike, you see the Jolof, the Wolof, you see the Siri people, the Dogon people. All their languages are very similar, and they have similar beliefs. They all traveled from Kemet to West Africa together. This is what I surmise. Because how is it that you go to these areas and then you see the people are very similar? So how can that be? They had to leave together when they were in Kemet. So these ethnic groups traveled together because they lived in communities together, even though they're different clans, so to speak, but they lived together in a certain area of Kemet, especially to the south, as we know as Upper Egypt, excuse me. And so they traveled across West Africa together. This is what I surmise, because there's too many similarities, brothers and sisters. And I'm going to get into that here. So then we look at the map, as I told you. The nucleus that I showed you here previously, these people here, okay, are here. They left Kemet, modern day Egypt, went into Takrur, and then into Andalus by 711. This is a very interesting thing, and because they had mixed together. When they got to Takrur, they began to mix in unison. As I told you, in the Western Corridor, a Fulani man cannot say he's 100% because he is not. He's got Amazigh blood in him. He's also got Serer, probably heritage as well. All of these people mixed together. If you're Amazigh in that region, Amazigh people were black as well. Their blood. Reason why I say that, you look at the Amazigh people here in Morocco, just about everybody has Fulani heritage. See, so this is, again, a phenomenon that we're talking about. And I'm going to concentrate on the first part of this with the Serer people. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to concentrate with them. There's been developments in the last 4 years that when I hear these things and saw these things, I begin to think about the Serer people because they were in Kemet. They were very interesting, brothers and sisters, in Kemet. And so when I'm going to concentrate on them, but I'm going to give you some codes how even back then, over 4,000 years ago, the brothers were nationalistic. So you think black nationalism is new is in this era? They had it even then. And I'm going to show you why they had it. When excuse me, no, not here. Where is it at, brothers and sisters? No, it's not it. Here. I'm going to touch on the Anu people in a minute. When each group in Messer, excuse me, that's in Arabic, in Kemet ran the show, each one had an ethnic term they were known by. This is a designation of pride. There were no Fulani people. There were no Fula people at this time. They were known as the Ka people. The Hausa were not Hausa as we understand them. They had a variation in names, but we also know they used the term Ba. The Serer and Mandinka, who again, here's the word sin. How many brothers we know in the Senegambia region? Because I have a cousin with an elder cousin with the last name Sin. So each group is designated by a term. This is how we know who they were. When we hear the term Ka Yahya, we know he's Futafula. When we hear the term Ba Muhammad, we know he's Hausa. When we hear his name, he's got the first name, or he put at the end Sin, we know this is Serer and Mandinka and Wolof as well. Because these people are descendant of the Nubian people. The Futafula are descendants of the Nubians also. We have evidence of that because there's a word also I didn't put in here yet that they also used to describe the Futafula people before they went up to the north and mixed with the Romans. When they began to mix with the Romans and the Greeks, then they became a hybrid people. Then they began to adopt a different attitude, and everything was rented to the heavens. Is Ka. Remember, I gave you a short class on this. Ka, and we have Ba. Ka is at the time of death, and then Ba is the soul that's resting in the seven heavens. If you are a good person, then the souls would meet. The Dogon people said the Ka and Ba get together and meet in the heavens if you're a good person, and then your soul would rest in this Sirius, the solar system in what is called Sigi pole, which is the third, which is they call Sirius C in this solar system next to the sun. If you saw my class, I talked about this and I gave evidence talking about what the Dogon people believe. But these are designation, brothers and sisters. Now, the Anu people, remember, last 2 weeks I've been asking. I got one answer from our brother Marcus. I don't think he showed up here yet. He's still on vacation. He said, yeah, they came from the south. He was correct. But I wanted the name of the people. Who were the original people? The original people who inhabited ancient Kemet were the Anu people. They were the Anu people, brothers and sisters. That's right. They were the Anu people. And they, the Anu people were the first prototype Nubian people from the south. The antecedents came later from Nubia to establish the dynasties. The pre-dynasty areas, the people were Anu, but the Anu people established the first writings. It wasn't the Khan or even the Nubians who came after. It was the Anu people. They were a prototype Nubian people, jet black in color. Okay, probably most of the blackest people that in history of mankind. Jet black. We know them under the Arabic language as Adam. Remember Adam and Eve? Adam means black. And even in the Quran, Subhanahu wa ta'ala says he formed us out of black mud, which coincides with the word Adam, meaning black. These Anu people were jet black people. So now I gave you the answer that I've been seeking from everybody. I want to know who was the original, who was the first who actually inhabited Kemp. It was the Anu people. It was them. And they were the pre-dynastic people, Kemetic people who gave us the first writings. Brothers and sisters, they had the first writing system. Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Anu people their first writing systems. It was them first who wrote and began to praise Subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's right. And they gave, again, when they wrote, they put on their on the papyrus, on the papers, the papyrus skin that they used for writing. Everything was Ani. Ani represents the Anu people. So again, the ethnic designation. Remember, as I told you before, I give you the designation again. When the Anu people, they use the term Ani. So we know the Anu people, when you start talking about someone, he's Yahya Ani. We know he's Anu people. If we hear the name Ba Yahya, we know he's got to be Hausa or somebody Yoruba, or it could be Igbo in this fashion. If you hear about Ka people, we know this is Fula people. If you hear the word Sin Muhammad, Sin Ahmed, these type of names there, Sin Musa or Moses, we know this have to be Siri people, Mandinka people. This is how we trump the racists who insist that the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, were pure white folk with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's BS, brothers and sisters, because as you hear me say for the last couple of weeks, the linguistic evidences and cultural evidences are so great to show you that the West Africans, us, the Fotofola, the Hausa, the Mandinka, all these people are still present today. They were in their original form in Kemt, and we knew them as Sin people, the Siri people, the Mandinka people. Okay, we knew them as Sin people. We knew the Fotofola as the Ka, but we also had another name for them, brothers and sisters, by the name of Sao. Sao was another name given to the Fotofola people. When they left to go up north, they were jet black because Herodias talked about these people they call Sao people. They were black as the night. They tend cattle. But when they made their way north up and they began to mix with the Greeks, they became lighter in complexion, but they still kept their African features, but began to adapt a different cultural traits. So they began to worship, and everything in the heavens and the earth, we knew it had to be Ka. So now you have this, and so we have the writings of the Anu people who wrote on the papyrus, and they had these beautiful hymns, brothers and sisters. It's them. When you go, they had the opening. I told you, for all who want to understand the pre-original African history. You have to pick up the Book of the Dead. It was known by forthcoming by day and night is the name of it. But we have the translation of Book of the Dead. And the first of it was the Ani people again. You read, you see the word hymns. You find this in the Bible, but it was written over 3,500 years before the Bible was even compiled, or even longer than that. But they have the opening hymns of introduction of the forthcoming by night, day and night. And you see the word Ani, ethnic, okay? This is why Africa, even today, is still ethnic. When we hear someone's name, we start to think about somebody. We hear the name Shabaka, we say, uh-oh, he has to come from the east. We hear the name Diallo, we know he's over in Senegal, he's in the Senegambia region, we know he's got to be, Fulani. See, we know these types of designations because Africa is still ethnic driven. This is why, because our ancient brothers in Kemp were this way, as I showed you the chart. House of people, everybody had a designation. So we knew who it was. And that way they left a message. It's a code, brothers and sisters, a code to let you know that these people were Black, they were African, and this is the name of their group for all times. This is why some of the racist historians changed all of the names to take the Africa from it. But now when these things have been discovered, we now have deciphered these hieroglyphics, and we got all this information. Now we have who the ethnic groups were. We even have Black nationalism because they've named their country Kempt, which means Black. So the brothers were nationalistic even then. That's where it came from. To even make it worse, not worse, to make it even more tough, they begin to designate one another by name. Ka people, the Fulani people, the Ba people, House of people, the Sin people who are in Senegal today. I have a cousin, older cousin, who has the last name Sin. So, brothers and sisters, it's a very, very interesting phenomenon. Very, very interesting. And this is your history. So I'm giving you something so you can understand. When you hear Black national talk, you think about modern times. No. It started back in Kempt. This is why I'm saying, brothers and sisters, Egypt has always been ours. Because the hieroglyphics, we start to decipher all this information here. We get names of ethnic groups. Even then, somebody was probably walking through there. We heard a name, and his name Ka Yahya. We know he's Fulani. We know by this. We know that. Ba Mohammed. Oh, he's Hausa. There's the Sin people. They're over here in this area here. The Sin people we understand are there in Senegal in the Gambia region. Because I have a cousin, Fulani Mandinka cousin by the last name Sin. Very, very interesting, brothers and sisters. Very, very interesting. So now, again, the ancient Black people who inhabited Kempt, the Anu people, I gave you that name. They were pre-Dusnic people who gave us the first writing on papyrus. They were the first teachers who gave us the first phrases of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. First to give us the ethnic designation and badge of honor. Now we understand. We understand how we have these names. And there's a lot of stuff here was taken out. They were brothers, sisters, they took out. They've been taking out my stuff here. Let me see here. Okay, now you see something here. The proper names, the people who I know today, I have people argue with me, they get mad with me, they say, no, the real name for the person who's Fula is this. But they don't know the ancient history because there was no such thing as Fula. There was no such thing as Fulbe. It was no such thing for full-day dialects. It was none of that. None of that. You were known, if you're Fula, as the Ka, or even sometimes Ba and Sao. These are the totemic names found in Kempt for them. This is what they were known by. The Sao were ancient people, evidence suggests they were closely aligned with the who are in Senegal today, the Laobe people, who mixed with the Sao people, and also mixed with the Nubian branch, probably with the Anu people, because they have a different look. And I heard they still have this look about them in Senegal today. I've seen pictures of them. They got long heads. They look quite different. See, so now I gave you a picture, brothers and sisters, about this to help you to understand about the Western Corridor, Senegal, Senegambia region, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Burkina Faso, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and so forth and so on. The Western Corridor area, those people moved in that region, and they went to the Takrur region, and that's where they stayed, and they got together there. And when they became strong Muslims, they were something else. But here's something why I'm concentrating today on the Seri people, brothers and sisters. I don't know if you've been following the news lately. I don't know if you understand what's going on here. In the last 4 years, they've been finding these monoliths all over the world. They've been finding them everywhere in the world. They're popping up. The last one here is in Las Vegas, in Nevada, in the desert region. They found one in Utah. They've been finding them around the world. They said they found even monoliths on the moon. Allegedly, they said that I've seen pictures, but then some said no, it's not true, and so forth and so on. But they said they found these monoliths, and even on some other planets in our solar system, they found monoliths. And here you see it here in various places here. They're popping up. They're popping up. The Seri people use them, brothers and sisters. That's right. And we know that these monoliths, you want to call them, is a place of burials. This is why when I start to see this, we don't know who's putting them, but they're all over the world now. In the last 4 years, people starting to find them everywhere. The Seri people used them as a place of burial, because when they left Kemp, they didn't have the materials as they did before. So they changed a lot of things in their in their habits and so forth and so on. And here, centuries later, these monoliths are large and took religious connotation. The Seri people, when they made their trek to go finally to the Senegal region and part of Mali today, they used these short monoliths, cone-shaped, as a place of burial, and they put pyramidal inscriptions on it. Now we find since 2020, there's 87 found around the world, but they don't have the pyramidal inscriptions on them. The one in Las Vegas, outside Las Vegas, was found. The police told him to stay away from it. And the news station who recorded, I saw on YouTube, they took pictures of it, they filmed it, and so forth, so on. They from some long distance, and they showed, they filmed it and so forth and so on. And everybody is intrigued about who are putting these monoliths everywhere in the world. So again, brothers and sisters, we have another mystery that's prevalent. It came from Kemp. We have another mystery. Who's putting these things there? We know the Seri people. We know they use this as a place of burial. We also know in the Western Corridor, we know because the Dogon has in their caves wrote as in Kemp in 600 AD, okay, 600 after the death of isolation, in Christian tradition, they said they were visited by people from the Ceres solar system. You saw my class, those who've been following me, follow my class about the Dogon people and what happened. They came in the 600s, and they showed them as aquatic type creatures. They said they came out of water. I gave you the whole thing about that. So we know that we have, again, writings and drawings of people who supposed to come from outer space. We have monoliths appearing all over the world that the Siri people were known for. And as they went and people died, they put these monoliths there. At that time, they put them in a cone shape, similar to as the shape of pyramids. Mystery. Mystery, brothers and sisters. It's a mystery. So when we go back to this again, when the burial rites of the Siri people, which is very interesting, it's that like an ancient Kip, the mummification, where they embalmed them and so forth and so on. But since when they left Kemp, they did not have the materials as they did when they were in Kemp. So they began to use other methods. So they it was banned due to climate and material. They didn't have it. Instead, they put these monoliths, brothers and sisters. They begin to put these monoliths in a burial sites. And you remember something. You remember Ka, remember here again, Ka Ra. Comes from what? It comes from the Fula, I'm talking about the archaic language, meaning burial site. See, so it was used as the Kara. So when people died who were Siri, who were Wolof and so forth, and Dogon, when they died as they made their trek to go to Takrur region, and when they left the exodus of Kemp, the Siri people built these monoliths, and they were cone shaped. We know that. So, brothers and sisters, now we have a mystery and we have a coincidence. See, we also know in Kemp they talked about these monoliths and so forth, that they were helped from space. We don't know the Siri traditions. I have not read. I've read books. No one talks about the Siri people and what happened with them there, and where they visited and so forth and told how to make these things. Because now these things are popping up everywhere. They said they're on the moon as well. They tried to deny that. But there's been people who got NASA photos who smuggled them out and then put it, happy to put there, but people denounced it. I don't know about that. I don't get into that because we don't know if it's true or not. But we do know these things appearing on the earth. That is true. And we also know we have a people who mastermind that way back thousands and thousands of years ago. And that was the Siri people that we know there in Senegal today. See? So, okay, here we go, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to find my, okay, okay, I got here. I'm trying to give you the definitions. Okay, the Kemetic codes. Okay. Now, I'm trying to move fast, brothers and sisters, for brevity and so forth and so on. But I'm trying to give you something so you can understand the nationalistic fervor of our people, our ancient people. We had ethnic designations. Ba, again, was many African groups used Ba as well. And the Ba and Wa, which is W as we know it today, was used in Kemp. Examples of this is the word Zimbabwe, Simbawa, Zimbabwe. All of this designating meaning of them, those. So we have the Simba. We know Simba as lion, right? We know in Swahili language, Simba as lion. Zimbabwe, that means it's many lions. This is how it was used in the old language. So when they talked, I can imagine how if we listen to them speak, I wonder how it is. We would try to listen to our ancient brothers speak. I wonder just how it would be, especially when they spoke Neher, where they had no vowels. When everybody, yeah, and bah, and then I don't know how they spoke, but they did. They had the language they spoke, but I just wonder how it would sound when people using, especially when they didn't have the vowels. And then when they did have the vowels, everything, according to who the people were, there was Zimbabwe, Sambawa, Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe. I mean, this is how they spoke. We know these designations here, again, meaning of them, those. This is a Siri. This is also used for Wolof. These are Kemetic codes, brothers and sisters, and designations to show this is West African and show it was black people and that we were there in Kemt. These designations of tribe and ethnic group coded so as to understand who and what and where. This coding was established in Kemt and carried on by the great West African exodus from Kemt. Groups migrated together to West Africa by these designations. The Ba people, again, you had the Yoruba, you had the Igbo people, you had the Tiv people, you have the Hausa people. They must have lived in the same region in Kemt, and then they traveled across and ended up in modern-day Nigeria. You saw the list here. The Western Corridor region, the Futafula, the Wolof, the Seri people, the Amazigh people, the Dogon people, the Soninke people, I forgot the, come on now, I can't think the other group. All of them had to travel at the same time, and they came together and they settled in the Takrur region. Again, having a designation. The Futafula, for those who are just now coming, I gave how we were designated black power, black nationalism, any way you want to call it. The brothers were on it. They want to show and leave a message for us so we know who our ancestors were in ancient Egypt. We know they weren't Tubab. We know this because we have designations, brothers and sisters. We have designations that have been translated now off the documents. The Anu people, they use everything Ani. When they wrote, they ended the sentence with Ani, or they begin the sentence with Ani, meaning the Anu people. It's them, it's us, it's we're our group. We did this. The Hausa people, they used Ba a lot in ancient times in ancient Kip. As I explained earlier, the Futafula used an ethnic term Ka. They were known as the Ka people. They were also known as the Ba people and the Sao people, as I explained to you before. It's translated. The Siri, the Mandinka, and Wolof, they used the term Sin. When the Siri, the Mandinka, and Wolof became pharaohs, kings of Egypt, you notice the names, you say Sin Yahya, Sin Muhammad, Sin Ahmed. This is how we know they were Siri and Mandinka. And we know they were descendants of the Nubian people. These are all designations, brothers and sisters, that we have. And this is ethnic. Again, to show the world, they left us a code, brothers and sisters. Our ancient black African brothers of Kemt left us a code for us to know them by. This is what I believe in my heart. I prayed extensively on this and asked subhanahu wa ta'ala, please decipher this for me. I tried to figure out West Africa. How was it that you got West Africa, you have people in geographical areas and all have similar languages? And you try to figure out how did they all get together to do that? They had to leave camp at the same time and settle in different areas. And now I got the answer in my mind, in what I've seen. Because we have this. If you're the Ka people travel with who? The Sin people, the Siri and Mandinka people, because they all live in this region. And they went to the Takrur region and they intermarried. We know this. This is why today you have a Siri person, he's got Fulani blood in him. You got a Fulani person, he's got Fulani, he's got Siri and Mandinka, and he's also probably got Amazigh as well. This is the bottom line on how it was, brothers and sisters. And it's a designation, it's a code for us to know by. To know that this is our people who were there in Kemt. They even gave us the code Kemt to tell us it was black. Kemt means black. So black nationalism, brothers and sisters, is not new. We know that the term Edom means black. We also know this. So, and even in the Arabic language and in the Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I formed you out of black mud, which is Adam. So I'm giving you this, brothers and sisters, for all those who are interested in knowing your ancient history and why you came from Kemt, you West Africans. I don't care who you are in West Africa, what ethnic group you are, you came out of Kemt. And you were known by a certain vowel. That's how they did it. They left that message for us to understand who they were. Me being Fulani, Fula, Fula, whatever designation you want. Me, at that time, I would be known as Ka. They'll be calling me Ka Yahya. My brother, whose name Muhammad or something, he's Ka Muhammad. We know that. If we look around the corner, we know it's house of people. Those house of people will probably be, Ba Muhammad, Ba Yahya. We know the Sin, the Siri people, and the Mandinka people, and the Wolof people. We hear the name Sin. He be Sin Yahya, Sin Muhammad, Sin Ahmed. We know these to be Siri people. We know them to be Wolof people. We understand that. So our people were smart. They were brilliant. They left us this code, brothers and sisters, so we know who they are, and we honor them, and we pray for them, and we say, hey, this is our ancestors who left Kemet. This is who they are. They left us this code, brothers and sisters, for us to understand. And I'm hoping that you get this. Let me see who's in the chat. I don't want to be disrespectful to our guest. We got here. How you doing, my dear brother? And it translates to me in modern Somali. Yes, that's very interesting. Yes, my dear brother, you're probably right, because we have, again, I don't cover much about the East because it's almost a done deal. We know the Somali people, we understand, and the people came from that region, all the Habasha we know in Arabic, Ethiopia, all that fall under the Nubian. We understand, and so we know these names. The curiosity I have, my dear brother, is the Anu people, who was the first black people, and we know them because there was a term Adam. They had to be so black. They had to be so black. They called them Anu people. They came from this region. See, they came from this region, the Anu people. And the Anu used the word Ani in their synthesis on the papyrus. Everything was Ani. When they spoke to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Osiris, Ani, meaning the scribe who spoke the truth. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Yes, your modern, yes, that is interesting. I'm curious to see what our other brothers who have this designation, the Ani, because we know now that the Ani people who were the Anu people, again, our brothers who were in Kemp left us all of these designations. Beautiful. They left us all of these designations so we know who was there. This is why ancient Kemp was not white. It can't be, because now we have all the translations of languages. We know the people were from East, they went to East Africa. We know that because they came from East Africa from the beginning. They traveled up the Nile up into modern day Kemp. We know that. And Nubia covered a big, big region. We know Somal was covered in that. We understand that. Eritrea, all these broke off as Somaliland. There was no such thing as that, as we all know. We was all under Kush and Nubia at that time. But there was the West African trek that ended up in West Africa. This is an interesting thing. I can translate to myself also. Okay, yes, and that, yeah, and that, see, I'm thinking of the word Anika, because that to me is like they had because Ka was used again as a designation for the soul, but it was used, we know Ka in Mehu Neher, we know Ka has to do divine, meaning our deaths in Arabic are souls, and everything they had, they used Ka, and the Fulani people were known as Ka because when the Fulani took over in around the late 17th dynasty, the early part of the 18th dynasty, everything was Ka. Ka. Everything was Ka. We know that. Even the first pharaoh of the Fulani was named King Ka. So, brothers and sisters, our history is rich. And all the brothers there should be no division between us. If our brothers are from Somal or present-day Eritrea or Somaliland or Djibouti or whatever, or Sudan and West Africa, we're there, and we lived in the communities, and we all had designations, and we're all brothers. We all lived there. Our ancestors lived there, and they left there. Many died there in Kemp. There should be no, disagreements between us because we're all the same. We have different designations. That's the bottom line. The and combined. Yes. Okay. Yes. Now, we also remember when the Fulani people took over in the 17th and the 18th dynasties, they had Ka and Ba. And the Dogon people who lived among the Fulani people at that time said about this combination, when you die, there's the Ka. And then in here was Ba. This was floating around in the heavens. When you were a good person, your Ka, your nefs, would go up and marry up with the Ba. The Dogon people went one step further by saying Ka and Ba met up in the heavens, 7 heavens, and then the soul rested in the Sirius chain, which is they call Sigi Pole, meaning the Sirius sea planet. They call it Sigi Pole, and the Medina for Fulani language. Very, very interesting. We also have Outba combined. Yes, and there's Ani Ba, Ani Ka. I think this is it, my dear brother, because Ani Ka, Ani Ba, because those are the designations that was given in ancient Kemp to mean, again, because they were very religious. Yes, they might have been mushrikeen, and so forth, but they were still deeply religious. It's no different today that in some ways like the Muslims. Abdullah means what? The slave of Allah, right? We have worship for Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We took designations talking about Allah. This is what they did. They talking about Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Allah. They had Ka, Ba. Very interesting. So you got it here, right? You have Ani Ba, Ani Ka. Very interesting. How you doing, my dear sister? Thank you for showing up. I'm glad to see a sister showed up. I really appreciate that. And you're honored here, welcomed here, and you're greatly appreciated for showing up, my dear sister. And I hope I see you in more telecasts, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum. I really appreciate it, my dear sisters. Thank you for showing up. And our brother said there are answers before invasions and light complexions. Yes. Now, my other class, I don't know if you saw that I gave talking about what happened. We figured out when the Nuba people, again, we talk about the Fulani because we know the Fulani people intermarried with the Romans and Greeks. That's why the Fulani people look like me and others. We have all kinds of variations. And I believe also the Nubian, there's a Nubian people they call Sao, S-A-O. They said they wanted original as well. They said they were jet black in color as well. They said the Sao people is the name they use for Fulani. They said that the Sao people went to the north, okay, and then they stayed there. When the Romans and Greeks came, they intermarried. When they began to leave, they were now lighter skinned. I believe they went back into eastern part, back into Nubia. We know they went to the Nubia. Did they become the Somali people? Let's think about that. Did they become the Somal? Because they also went to the west. Because why? The Somal people and the Fulani people, a lot of times you can't tell the difference between who is that unless they speak. My brother here, you know what I'm talking about. I saw when I was in Sudan, I saw some sisters were standing near this one place there where you get ice cream and stuff like that, right? I saw them talking, but I couldn't understand exactly what they were talking about. I looked, one had a different type of clothes. I know she was Habesha. I know that from Habesha in Ethiopia. The other sister, she looked just like her. I know. Then I found out they said, oh, she's Fuleta, which is the Fulani. That's what they call Fulani people in Sudan. I didn't know the difference. They looked the same. I have a feeling what happened was those Sao people who went up north intermarried with the Romans and Greeks. They began to have different textures of face, color, body build, right? Hair textures. They went further south again, stayed there. Did they become the Somali people? Let's think about that. Did they become the Somali people? Because, frankly, brothers and sisters, you can't tell the difference between somebody from Somalia and a Fulani person. It's very difficult. They almost look the same. I got the feeling that we share the same ancestor who they call Sau. This is what was written in hieroglyphics. They known them as jet black, but then when they intermarried with the Tubab, the Greeks and Romans, they took on a different complexion, hair texture, body build, and so forth and so on. And then they went back further south. Then some left to go to the west. We know them as the Ka people as well. So maybe what happened was the branches went to West Africa. The Ka people became the Fulani people. Now the South people who now go into the Somali region now became the Somali people. This is what I believe, because you can't tell the difference between the Somali person and the Fulani, especially the sisters. It's very difficult unless they speak. It's very difficult. So we may be on to something. Thank you, my dear sister, for greetings. Thank you very much. Salam alaikum, my dear sister. Thank you for showing up. I really appreciate this very much. I like to encourage the sisters to come here. We honor you here. We respect you, and we want your input and so forth and so on. And it's greatly appreciated when sisters come here, because I want their input, because you bring a different level of education and so forth. And I want to hear your side of things, because you are a sister. So you guys look at things a little bit different, to a lot of aspects in us. So your input is greatly appreciated here. Thank you very much, my dear sister, for showing up. I am Ka and I am Ba. Yes. Okay. Yes. Now, this, as you wrote here, my dear brother, here looks almost like the Fulani, ancient Fulani Ka language. That's what they call at that time. This is Somal. The Somali people and the Fulani people are the same, brother. The difference is that one traveled to the west, became the Fulani people, and the other stayed in the east and became the Somali people. Because I believe we share the same grandfather, who the people they call Sau, and they described on the papyrus as jet black. But they went to the north and intermarried, they said, with the invaders who were white. And they became lighter skinned, different hair textures. Some went back to the south, they said. Others left camp to go west. I think, my brother Muhammad, I think we found the answer to that. Because I often, when I was in Sudan, I used to see this combination. I saw especially the sisters. I saw the Fulani sister and the Ethiopian sister. Couldn't tell the difference. When I saw the Somali sister and the Fulani sister, I couldn't tell who was what. Especially if they put on the Sudani style clothing, you didn't know until some brother I know said, "Hey man, do you know who they are?" I said, "No." I look like you're from Ethiopia. He said, "No, not once Somali, and the other one is Fulani. Fuleta, they used to call it." And I was looking, but I didn't mean to, you know what I mean? Because out of curiosity, here I'm an American, I'm in Africa, and I start seeing things, and I'm trying to figure things out. You know what I mean? I got to Sudan because I have relatives in Sudan. Shabaka, I have relatives there. So I wanted to check it out. But now our brother Muhammad has brought up some interesting points, because this looks like the language I saw, especially that we have translated out from the ancient Fulani language and so forth and so on with this. And also the Wolof used this designation, and also the Hausa also has similar to that. So I'm happy my brother Muhammad showed up here today to educate us and give us the background on that, because now I am certain that the Somali people and the Fulani people are one people. We have the same grandfather, and they've known them again as the Sau. I'll show you. This is what they found them under here. This is a old designation. They found them to be part of the Anu people who were the original people. This is the Sao people. They called the Fulani this because they said the Fulani people, the Laobe people, and I believe the Somal people came out from the loins of the grandfathers of the Sao people, who were the original Black Nubian people. And then they intermarried, and with the Romans and Greeks to the north, they began to go to the west, and they were known as the Fulani people at the time, and also probably some of the Syri people and the Dogon people as well. And then to the east, we know them to be Ethiopian and Somal. So I think this is the connection, brothers and sisters, that we were looking for. Okay, let me get to some other brothers here. We got, how you doing, my dear brother? Walaikum salam. Thank you very much. I am greatly honored that you're here today. Me as an elder, I appreciate everybody here and whatnot. And we're here to learn together. And, because I've learned a lot. Our brother here, Mohammed, has educated us today, especially on the language capabilities. He's gave us things that help us to discern the hieroglyphics, because we have all this ka, we have ba, we have sin, all this stuff like this. And our brother Muhammad is starting to put this picture together for us to understand. So we have the Somali people with the Fulani people. We got the same grandfathers. There's no doubt. The same grandfather with the Sao people. There's no doubt in my mind, because we have too many similarities. We look too much alike. There's too many similarities. How you doing, my dear brother? Thank you. Walaikum salam. What about the Tuba people who lived in South Libya and northern Chad? Yeah. Now they came. They came much later at a different period, and we know that they settled there at a different time. And we also know that they mixed with the Romans and so forth and so on, because the Romans and the Greeks could not go past a certain cataract, because once they go south to a certain cataract, they had to deal with the Nubians. And the Nubians weren't having it. If you read the documents, the Romans, the Nubians were not having it. So they kept the white boy up to the north. Bottom line, we look at the vernacular, the Tuba, they kept them there. They had treaties with them. But we also know the Romans and Greeks did venture out into modern Libya and so forth and so on. And they start to intermix. So we have olive complected people and so forth. They weren't white. But in modern times, we have those people, because they're Arabs and so forth and so on, who came from the Middle East, Jazeera, into that region. In ancient times, they begin to come. We believe them to be, the father had to be Greek and Roman. The mother had to be an offshoot of Fulani and Somal from the Sao people. And then they went in there, because there was a lot of mixing, brothers and sisters. There was a lot of mixing going on. But then we have Black nationalism as well, because we have many of the brothers, like the Hausa and others, they didn't want to have nothing to do with the Greeks. So they went further south into Nubia. That's why remember I showed you that picture, you had all these different shades of Black folk. You had jet black, you have medium brown, you have light brown people. Remember in that one mural I showed you, they got off the hieroglyphics that was in the south. So now we have that, we see that. It's a very interesting destination, brothers and sisters. The origin, I don't know who these people, brother, if you're still here, I don't know who you're talking about, the Tiri people. I'm not sure who they are. Please, again, Khaled, my dear brother, please tell me who you're talking about here, because I don't understand. How you doing, my dear brother? Hope that we're all Black people, and knowledge that comes from the Egyptians, because yes, this is true. The first teachers of Kemet, as we understand it, were the people from Nubia and Ethiopia, as we understand. They were the first people, but there's a people who preceded all of them, and it's the Anu people. See, they were the Anu people, and this is what me and our brother Muhammad was talking about, because Muhammad broke down some of the dialect for us, because we were talking about Ka and Ba was used a lot. These are designations that Black people use to designate one another. This is why I said Kemp was not white. Kemp was black, because we have languages now to show this. Our brother Muhammad is Somali, so he understands, because the Somali language is very similar to the ancient Egyptian Kemp languages. Okay, we know that all sister languages there. So he broke down ba and ka, ani, ba, ani, ka. See, so he understands it. He gave that to us. So we starting to break that down. That's why I've said, brothers and sisters, you sitting in West Africa, you sitting in East Africa, from Somalia, from Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia, we're all cousins. We came from a grandfather, we know, because our original grandfather were the Anu people. The second people who came were the Nubian people, and we know those people had to be Sao, because the Sao people came and mixed. When the Sao people went up there, they became the Fulani, they became the Somali. I understand this, what I feel now. This is why we have all these designations that we have. It's beautiful, brothers and sisters. It's a beautiful history, our African history, that they try to take from us. That's why when you see these programs now, you have all this ammunition. And as you heard me say before, when these people get up there and start talking about Kemp being white, you ask them, Neher, what kind of language was that? And then you start breaking it down to them. I said, who are the Ka people? Who are the Ba people? Start asking questions like this. Well, it's not European, because the designation, because how is it the languages that we have in West Africa and East Africa are all related? It doesn't make sense. The European languages are not related to the African languages. They're not. But the Fulani language is related. The Hausa language, the Somali language, all these languages, we all interrelated. We all have the same names. There may be variations. It's a beautiful history. They try to take it from us, brothers and sisters. They try to take that from us. Our brother said, the Tubac tribe. Yeah, okay, now remember something, my dear brother. The Romans and Greeks came, and they became conquerors. They came as visitors, and I'll get more into that, but they start to come around the 4th and the 5th dynasty. We know that. So they start to hang around from the 4th to the 5th dynasty, all the way until around about near the 21st, and they begin to make their move. And they begin to take over the country. That drove the brothers out. The brothers, let me go to map here. Here we go, we go back to here. We go back here. Let's look at this. Let's get this map here, okay? We show here, you see the sails at the top there. We just picture that as the Romans and Greeks. They made their entry into Kemp. They came around the 4th and 5th century, because we have Herodotus, the great famous historian, talking about what he saw in Kemp. He saw black folk, because he described them with kinky hair. And I told you about all the tests that were run to prove that the people were black. When the Romans began to snoop around, they're hanging around, okay? By the 5th dynasty, everybody knew who they were. They began to come more and more. By the 17th, 18th dynasty, we started to have treaties with them, but they were hanging around. They start to live in the cities among us, just like they do today. They come today, they look around here in Morocco, they look around in Algeria, they look in Somalia, they look around, and many of them are spies. They watch and look and so forth, because they're going to invade us. They estimate between the 20th and 20th dynasty, 21st dynasty, they made their move to take over all of Kemp. And they made their move and they came in. They drove the brothers to the south. And this is why we had all of these different murals like this. They're down in the south now. As I was trying to say to my brother Muhammad, they drew this to show, look at these black folk. You see different complexions, don't you? See, this is what happened when we had the original people, who they were known as the Sao people, who were Nubians, mixed with the Romans, because the Romans now had came around between the 4th, the Greeks, between the 4th and the 5th dynasty. So they have been around now for almost 16 to 17 dynasties. See, So we have that evidence. And so now our brother Muhammad was talking about the language because he gave names. If you saw in the chat there, you go look what our brother Muhammad is talking about. We were talking about Ka and Ba because, again, we know this is a code. Let's just pull that out here. The where are we at here? Here we go. We know this code, brothers and sisters, that our people left us. Earlier, those who showed up now, I talked about this code that our ancestors left us. Those who live in Senegal, who live in the Senegambia region, you know the Sen people. Now you understand where it came from. The Sen people were, as a designation, was used in Kemp. We know the kings by the name Sen Yahya, Sen Muhammad. They had all these different names. We know that. See, and we know that when they had the word Ka, we know the Ka had to represent there were no Fulani people at that time. They were only known as Ka and Ba and Sao. That's the names that the Fula people were known at that time. There were no Fulani, Fulde, or Fula, none of that. They were known as Ka, Ba, and Sao. And they left these designations. Our Fula people use Ka for everything. If the name, you had the name Ka Yahya. Our brother Muhammad was talking about in the Somali language. He gave us the Ani Ka, which is true. Ani Ba. See, so these designation was designed for us, brothers and sisters, for us in modern times to understand our ancestors who were there. That's why they had it there. Now we understand who was there. We know the house of people because the house of people had a way of using Ba. We understand that. They used it in a different way. We also know that the Decipher, Mandinka, and Wolof used Sen. And there's other designations. I'm just only giving you a few. See, so our ancestors left us a ethnic code for us to discern who they were. So we know them, we know who our ancestors were. When we hear the Ka, we now know the Fula and the Somali people. No doubt they're related. As you heard my story here earlier, I said, when I was in Sudan, I saw the Fleta people, that's what they call the Fulani, and I saw the Somali girls. I saw them at this one place. I used to go there to get ice cream because Sudan is hot. Sudan is hot. And I saw the two girls, and the brother who was with me, who's Sudani, he said, you know who they are? I said, no. I said, they look like from Ethiopia. He said, no, you're wrong. He said, this girl is Somali, and the other one over to your left, she's, Fulani, essentially Fulani. But they look the same. I couldn't tell the difference. And this is a very interesting fact. How you doing, my dear brother? House of people are not the same with the Fulani, but very close neighbors. Yes. Okay, now, my dear brother, if you just now showed up, please, before you start to make something here, I never said the Fulani people are the same house. So anyone who was here at the start, you should go back and review what I said. Here, I'm showing you exactly, if you're still here, I'm giving you, my dear brother, what you see designations. Does it show here that the Fula people and the house of people are the same? We have relations. Yes, we have a lot. We have heritage. We're cousins because everybody who left out of the camp are related. You cannot diss it. You cannot diss anybody that's from the east, meaning Ethiopia, Somaliland, Eritrea, or Djibouti, any of those places like this. You cannot say you're not related to them. You are, because we're all came from the same region and we had designations that we used. But that doesn't mean that the House of people and the Fulani people are the same. No, but we are related in a lot of ways because we live together, and we've lived together since 3,000 years. See, so here, my dear brother, we got to be careful when we say things. Here's the fact that the Temple Moon was built migration of thieves. Yes, they again. Now, we have the Akan language. If you saw my class, the Greeks did a butcher job on our names. Like Tutankhamun, right? The famous boy who was the pharaoh. We know him because we translated the documents correctly. We know him as Tutu and Koma. So we had the African designation, but Amun, all these were are names that were translated by the Greeks who changed the names around. See, Amin, it may be what we can use, and so forth and so on. But yes, we understand that to be, and here we go. Let's see, the trouble that was there, like Bar and Kali. No, no, brother, no, brother, no, I think you got this because Bara and Kali. I don't know about that because I know that when you start talking about Ba, Ka, Ra, you got now you're talking about the Fula people, you're talking about the Wolof and the Siri people, because they were really deep into that. And Ba also was used by the Hausa people. So I don't know about this Tubab language because there was no European language. The Europeans who came in with their language was not indigenous to Africa. Is not, because if it was indigenous, then why don't we have a designation for them? And if you say that these people here, the Tubab language is Ba, Khan, Ra, no, they were not. You got to show me more proof of that, because we have documents written talking about Ra. Ra was the designation of who they considered the sun god, right? They say sun god, but Subhanahu wa ta'ala created the sun, and that's when they talk about Ra. And we also have people named Ra. They use that as a first name designation, just like Ka. Ka was used by the Fula people, the Somali people as well, because our brother Muhammad gave us education on the Somali language. He gave us the name Ani Ka, Ani Ba. I don't know who these people are that you're talking about, because I don't know any Tuba from Europe that's in language related to any of the Ka, Ba, and Ra. I don't know where that's. I don't know where you got that from. Please give me some proofs on that. The Gara does mean sun. Okay, yes. See, that's another designation. Yes, in that for sun in Somal. See, so yes, and we have different times and different designations. Let me see what here we are. This Oasis. Yes, yes. This is probably the case and whatnot. And we had temples, but when I get into the dynasties, that's going to clear up a lot, because we have a lot of fallacies and stuff. We have a brother here was talking about the Tubab being an integral part of the native languages. That's not the case, because I'm gonna I got to go back here. Let me see what our brother here is. Okay, here, and we got here. I think I got everybody covered. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's go back here to the Ani people. See, there was no such thing, because the OT is the king's list. The OT was the indigenous Africans who were the kings of Egypt. None of them were white. You had Roman conquerors, yes, but they were not white. Not one of them. They were all black. Why? What did Herodias say when he came? I want to give this to our brother so he can go through this. Let me see where we have Herodotus. If I can find it, because there's a lot. Okay, here we go. Now, in the fourth, between the last of the fourth and the fifth dynasties, our famous historian, who's Greek, came to Kemet. He did not find white people there. He found people going from Egypt, as we know today, all the way up to Iran, the Chaldeans and all these people like this, Chaldeans and all them. He talked about them. Look what he says. That's for our brother who insists that there's a Tubab languages and that they were an integral part of Egypt. That is a fallacy, because by the fourth and fifth dynasty, Herodias came. He described the people there. He didn't describe any of them white. He said their skin was burnt. He said their skin was burnt. As you heard me say, when the sun burns something, or when there's a fire, it turns black. It doesn't turn white. See? So I wanted to give you this evidence, my dear brother, because I want you to pull your evidence up and give me, because I don't know what legendary Tubab tribe you're talking about, because there's all the languages that we speak in West Africa, all the languages spoken in East Africa, is all related to Kemet. There's no doubt. European languages are not related. I gave you the designations. The Sin people, are they in Europe? You're not going to find anybody with the name Sin unless he's married with somebody from Senegal or from the Gambia region, because the Sin people are in the Western corridor today. The Sin people were pharaohs and kings in the kings list. We have 3 pharaohs by the name, the first name Sin. Okay, we know that. This is translated again, meaning the Siri people, the Wolof people. We know them to be there because our ancestors left us codes, so we know who they were. They left us codes, brothers and sisters. And again, Herodias did not say anything about he saw white folk. He said these people, Chaldeans, Egyptians, and Ethiopians, all these people he encountered have thick lips, broad nose, woolly hair, and they're burnt of skin. End of story. So you show me your proof about this legendary Tubab tribe that was there. I never heard of it. Okay. I mean, and you know, and we have an historian who was there. And if they spoke this language, what language are you talking about? Because and you said they were Ba, Ka, and Ra. That's not true. That's a fallacy, my dear brother, that you write that. It's not Ba, Ra, because all of those are designation and religious, and people had the names designated by what they believe. The Fulani people, when they took over, they were called the Ka people. When the House of people were running, they were Ba. When the Siri, Wolof, Mendinka people who were running, they were kings of Kemp, they had the name Sin. That's how we know who our ancestors were who were running Kemp. They left us this code. So our dear brother, I think he's got, I want to show this also as well here. Let me see here. I'll get to you guys here in a minute. I want to show you something again, the relationship that these scientists have found. The Amon exists in Yoruba. The Yoruba people, again, showing Mon, because our sister was talking about this, how the Yoruba got its name, how the Siri got its name. All have got our names in ancient Egypt. This is how the names, how we got Yoruba, how we got the Siri people, how we got the Wolof. All the names are designated inside Kemp. There were no legendary Tubab. None. They came as invaders later, but they were not native to Kemp. They were not. We should have cleared this up by now. So I want to get that understood, to show that, and I'll get to the comments here. We got here. I'm just asking. I am not claiming. You just asking. Okay, now good. Okay, now you cleared it up. Great. Thank you, my dear brother, for clearing that up. No, there's none. They came as conquerors. We know that, but they are not in the king's list, even though they tried to put themselves on there, but they weren't, because when our historians wrote the king's list, what we call OT, that's not European. That's black. That's black African. They call it the OT. The OT is the king. It gives you a history of Egypt. The Europeans came, yes. We showed them hieroglyphics. They came as conquerors. And I told you, when Herodias wrote his log, around the 4th to the 5th century, the Europeans began to come, the Tubab began to come in earnest into Kemp. And they stayed around, they formed small communities, they listened and obeyed, you know, and you know, black people, we're so universal, so forgiving. We can live with anybody, even to a fault, because the Romans and Greeks were setting us up. By the 19th and 20th century, they invaded this big time, because now they had all the information. They knew our weaknesses, and they conquered a great portion of Kemp. Our brothers left the north and went back to the south, and they stayed among their Nubian brothers and formed this. The rest of the, I'll give you the list, the OT, because there's periods of time. I don't want to cover that because it'd be confusing. But they came and they settled and had other dynasties that were formed basically to the south. But they came back into Kemp and began to drive out the Tubab. See, by the 24th, 25th, and 26th, they start to drive the Tubab out. Then they weakened, and then traders, as we know, the black people on this continent, just like in slavery, they could not have slavery without black folk helping them. In the ancient Kem times, around the 26, 27 dynasty, we were almost finished. Our black brothers began to aid the Tubab against us. So they aided the armies to assist us. They assassinated many of our kings. They poisoned many of the people and made it easy for the Tubab to take over. Around the 26, near the 27 dynasties, we were nothing, essentially. Okay, we were now weak. Our power was just about gone. And our brother says, I'm having some, okay, yeah, plethora means table in Swahili, and Hausa means lower downstairs. That's thank you, my dear brother. That's pretty interesting. Plethora means table. That's very interesting. Thank you for something Swahili. And it also means lower downstairs. That's very interesting how languages have changed and how we have language on one side meaning one thing and somebody else have the same words on meaning another thing. Thank you for giving us that information, our dear brother. The two of our languages, family is known as it. No. Okay. You know what? No. That's it. No, that's it. No. He's gone. I got to move him out. That's ridiculous. Brothers, sisters, I gave you the proof of Herodias, who's there in 4th and 5th dynasties, right? He said the people were black, didn't he? He said their skin was burnt, didn't he? Why would our brother here wrote what he just said? He said the Nubian people were Tubab. I don't think he's a brother. I think he's a Tubab, provocateur. This is what I believe. And Khalid is his name. We had to move him out. So anyway, brothers and sisters, I'll get back to this and I'll be closing here in shortly, but I want to get more into this. I want to talk about the Siri people a little bit more. I gave you this designation here again. Brothers and sisters, I think our brother Muhammad, he understands exactly what I'm talking about because he gave us a lesson here on the Somali language, which is very closely related to all of the languages that we speak in West Africa. Even though Hausa and Fulani means something different in Somali, but we have the connection because we all came out of Kemp. This designation here, brothers, helped us to understand who they were. And our brother Muhammad talked about Ka and Ba. He gave us the name Ani Ka, Ani Ba. And we know that people, and our brothers who live in Senegal and the Senegambia region, we know the Sin people, because I have a cousin by the name Sin. Okay, last name is Sin. We know that. We know the Sin people. We know the Sin people came out from Nubia, and went into and became kings because their names are in the king's list. I have to go back in there. I'll be around the third dynasty, the 4th dynasty. They called the Sin kings because they became the Siri and the Mandinka and the Wolof people and the Dogon people also as well in the Western corridor. We have that. So we have these designations, brothers and sisters, and that, the burial rights. I was talking about the burial rights again because there's a fascinating development that's been happening. We start to have these all over the world now. But we know our brothers, the Syrian people, were famous for this. When they have this, the monoliths, it's a burial site. Here, I got this off this one news. It's a mysterious monolith, and the police told the people to stay away from it because there was even reports saying there's a magnetic field around it. And now there's speculation saying that people from outer space came and dropped it. We start to find these all over the place. But our ancient brothers, the Syrian people, and still today use monoliths as a place for burial. See, so this is interesting. And here we got around the world, they're showing these without the inscriptions, they're popping up everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world, they're popping up. But we know in ancient times, they were burial sites. This is where they put these, but they put them in cone shape. Our people, our brothers, the Syrian people, and they say Wolof also did this. So we have the burial rights, and we talk about that in the century. Again, we talk about those things. It's a phenomenon. And I'm trying to find the correlation between, we starting to find these monoliths. We know the Syrian people were making these monoliths. We know also that in the hieroglyphics, we know that the Kemp people were visited from outer space. You heard me talk about that last week. There was one Jewish scientist who's dead now on his deathbed, spilled the beans, talking about this issue about big black people who were 8 feet tall that they found in a ship, that shipwrecked. I mean, in a ship from outer space. I mean, there's a lot of information there. Of course, he was discredited, but he was on his deathbed when he talked about it. So again, explaining the close relationship in languages given West Africa geographical geographical location. Here's something, brothers and sisters, and I want you guys to understand this. How we know that we have languages and how we're related to Kemp. We have a guide that we should use. So you guys got to remember that, okay? We have a guide that we use here. In Kemp, we look at the relationship of West Africa and East Africa too by similarity in language, similarity of religious belief. We have people, we have the same beliefs. Now, we're not talking about Islam. We're not talking about modern time. We're talking about ancient, okay? We're talking about the religious concepts and practices. Black people had similarities. You can find names of many in West Africa and East Africa. The survival of customs and norms of people, places, and objects. A prime example, when the Akan people left Memphis, okay, you know this in English as Memphis, right? Translated in hieroglyphics and in the Akan language is Memphis. Memphis is a place in Ghana today. That's right. And even in the Siri language and the Fula language, we have names of this in Senegal today that were in ancient Kemp. That's how we know. That's how we know that we have this correlation by these designations, these 4 designations. That's how we know it's black, because the similarity in language, similar in religious beliefs, the similarity in ideas, religious practices and ideas, the survival of customs. The Yoruba people still keep the same customs they had in Kemp, no doubt. How about the big chair, the big ancient chair that the royalty sat on? Their Yoruba and the Akan people still kept that. See, and then we have the names of persons. The persons have names. They have similar names that they still kept when they traveled and went and migrated to the west and to the east. Places, object, Memphis. Memphis is Memphis. Translated in Netter is Memphis. Memphis, you can find it in where? Ghana today. All these similarities make it a black thing, make it a black African civilization of Kemp. I just didn't yell that Egypt is ours. I didn't scream out. I gave you as much evidence for the last 3 weeks to show you Kemp is ours. And and also, our brother Muhammad, I don't know if he's still here. We also know too that I'm gonna write this in here for us because I'll get to your questions here in a minute, dear brothers. Please hang on. I wanted to give this because I want to see if our brother Muhammad is still here. There's the no, it's wrong. That's okay. This is one people, and then the combination of the other was Toro. Now, don't we know this name? This is a clan that's there in Habasha today, and part of Ethiopia, or Habasha is Ethiopia, and I guess in some parts of Sudan, and I think stretching up into the hills, going maybe near in Somalia. This name here, this is a group. This here, you find the same relationship. Remember the word Toro? Who uses Toro a lot? The Fulani people. But the Toro, we use Toro a lot. We use Toro and Toro. Remember the Dogon people when they charted the space and the Sirius star system? They used this word as well. So this here is an area where they were living And we also know that the Seri people, the Wolof people, were living in this region at one time. And now we have our brother here, Heptep. Yes, brother. Okay, yes, yes, that's one king. We got our dear sister here. Walaikum salam, my dear sister. Shukran Jozelin Lek. I really appreciate you showing up. Thank you very much. Our dear sister is Moroccan here. She said she wrote in the Arabic language. Thank you very much. We have many. Yes, okay, but brother, what are you talking? Okay, here we go. Here, Wasataka was a town in Takrur. Okay, now you're making sense. Yes, you got it. It's true what you just said here, our dear brother. Very, very true. And our dear sister is saying from our brother, me, West Africa was known as the land of West Ethiopia. Yes, because again, we traveled from the region and it was designated. We had different names for the region. And again, if you heard me earlier in my broadcast, I was talking about something that I realized. I kept asking the question. In West Africa, you notice the people in Nigeria, present day, they all are very similar in language and customs. Okay, yes, we have Muslims and non-Muslim, Muslim Christians. We're not talking about that. But we have people who relate, the Yoruba, Igbo, okay, Hausa, we have that relationship. They must have been living together in ancient Kemet. We go to Ghana. You had the Ga people who were there in ancient Kemet. We have the Akan. We have the Fante people. We know they were living there. Very similar. They're similar to one another, but they're different to a degree than our Hausa brother and our Igbo brother and our Yoruba brother. But here they live together. We go to the Gambia. I'm not bypassing Sierra Leone and Liberia, but the Gambia is important in this regard. Again, we have similarities. We have Mende and Mandinka, okay? And the Fulani people are quite different for a reason, what you heard me talk about. But we still have some relation. When we get to Senegal, we have, again, this relationship between who? Sere, Wolof, Mende, Mandinka, and the Fula people. So each group, ethnic groups, had to go together. The Hausa group settled in the Nigeria region. The Akan people came, left Kemet, settled in the Ghana region. The Mende Mandinka people with this particular clan settled there in the Gambia. Because we have a lot of people with the name what? Sin. Sin, Wolof is also in there. The Sin people came from ancient Egypt. And we have the Sin people in the Gambia because I have a cousin there with the name Sin. They traveled in unison together and landed in the Gambia as we understand it today. In Senegal, the Seri people, the Wolof, the Mandinka, the Hapupular, the Fulani people, all had to live together in Kemet, traveled across the trek across into West Africa and settled in the Takrur region. And you heard me say that nucleus made up the Muslims to go and hit where Andalus in 711 AD. So this is my synopsis, brothers and sisters, what has happened. Another fact, the Niger River today is called the Nile River in the ancient times, and the land was also called Sudan. Yes, I talked about it in some of my classes. Bilades, Sudan, it means the land of black people. And also the Takrur region was the name designated for people from West Africa at one time too. The Arabs who came over when they were impressed with the Takrur. Takrur, I want to cover that another time because the history, especially the Islamic part of this, is rich. And we also know that Tariq ibn Ziyad came to the south from Morocco. He got the warriors from the Takrur region and Mauritania and Takrur, and they went into Andalus and kicked butt. Remember 711, the invasion of Spain? That nucleus who I gave, Siri, Wolof, Mandinka, Hapapular, Sinike, Fula, they all came and did their thing. See, so this is, again, brothers and sisters, a fascinating history that we have. And so this is, again, and Sudan is the Arabic word meaning land of black people. Soda means black folks, many black people. Soda. That's where the word Sudan came from. So we know ancient time Sudan means black people. We understand that in the Arabic language. Okay, okay. I don't know what you mean. As I don't know what you mean there, my dear brother. On that, okay. The ancient Kemetics were masters of crossing this. Yes. Now again, see, we have a designation on who came across. See, now we have a designation. We know who came across. And when they were ancient Egyptians, but that's Clement. Yes, they were that. But the ethnic groups who came across, we have those designations, which I showed. I showed later. I showed here where we at. Okay, that's them came across. We have that, and we have the here. Okay, we have this. We have the term here. We know that except Ani, don't worry about that. We have Hausa with the Ka, and we have the Sin. Okay, and excuse me, Amina. Okay, excuse me. I had to talk to my wife because she's talking to some people that I can hear really well. So we have the Sin people, and we have the Ka people, and we have Ba people, and we have not the Ani people, because the Ani people, they stayed to the east, and we know the Ani people, we believe, also became the Somal people, the Eritrea, the Ethiopians. We believe this to be the case because they were the Sao people, and the Sao people was another name for the Fula people at one time. So we have that, and we talked about that, and I want to get into the Takrur region here. Okay, well, let me go back. Okay, interesting similarities. So the trek from Nubia and across the Nile, again, we had the migration to Western Sudan today, onward to Senegambia region, Siri, Hapular, Fula, and so forth. Now, I didn't talk about these people, the Amazigh. The Amazigh people, you know today, quote unquote, the Berber, you know them, you see them as white. But we know the people, the original Amazigh people were black. They were known Muzab. I have this in my heritage because it came up in my sister's DNA. And I didn't know who they were. But they were ancient Egyptians. They known them as Muzab. The Muzab people became the Amazigh people. See, and I'll get to that in a minute here pretty soon. Now, the prototype, again, the Fula people who begin to mix, again, the Fula people and the Somal people are almost the same people. It's just that one of the clans went to the west and the other clan went to the east. Went to the southeast. See, so the Ote, which is the kings that tell us that the original Fula people were jet black Nubians. They went northwards and mixed with the Greek. This hybrid became the Ka and Ba people, as you heard me say. They weren't known as Sao anymore. When they went up to the north, they were known as the Sao people. See, and then this is the names that we found, brothers and sisters, on to explain the history, how rich it was. How rich it was. Okay, and they established this core group that I've talked about, the Sinike, Wolof. They established the Fula, the Islamic Sultanate from 711 to 1400s AD in Spain. We know about that. And we have now the Amazigh people. I got to get into that with you because the Amazigh people are part of the Western Corridor. We know the Amazigh people today because they're very light-skinned, but you have Amazigh people who are black in the south. Okay, we have that. See, so we can't go by what you see today because we're looking at the ancient times. I'm gonna see if I have the map here of that. Oh, they took it. No, here we go. The Mozart people, they came from Egypt. They settled in modern day Algeria. They had, remember the name Shabaka? That was the who. He was the 25th dynasty, one of the 25th dynasty kings. And that's my name. And they called their homeland Shabaka. The Shabaka people became, the Amazigh people we know today. Everybody calls them Arabs, but they're not. But they're Amazigh people. They went into Morocco. They went into Mauritania. They went to the Takrur region. They went into Mali and Niger. We know that. Okay, we know that they did that. We know they did this. And okay, we talked about that. Let me get back to we talked about that. Where's the Takrur? Okay, and so when they left Algeria and the Dola Shabaka, okay, broke up, they broke up into groups. The Mozart branches became Lemtuna, Sanhaj, Zanetta, Jadela, and so forth and so on. These groups, the Lemtuna, Jadela, and Sanhaja, went to Takrur and intermarried with the Wolof people, with the Fulani people, with the Siri people in that region. That's right. And so this is why it became a big melting pot. And when they became Muslims, they were fierce warriors. And they went into Andalus, as you heard me say, and they conquered in Andalus. And 711 to 1400, 700 years, we maintained a sultanate there in Spain. Everybody knows that story there. And let me see, we got a couple more things. People, Muhammad, okay, let me see. Let me find here. Okay, created caravan roads that went from Egypt to Ghana, Timbuktu. There was certain interaction. Yes, we have that. We've got that. But now, my dear sister or brother, whoever my brother, now you have to give us designations on the ethnic groups. There's no longer the ancient Egyptians. There was that. I now give you evidence of the people who made those treks. They were the Amazigh people. They were the Wolof, the Siri people. They were Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. All made that trek across. All made that trek to go to West Africa. You heard me just say right now how we have all these destinations. They were in ancient times. And we know, if you came across on a caravan of people and they had the name Sin, we know them to be Siri, Wolof, okay, and Mendika and Mendi people. We knew that. If they have the name Ka, we know them to be Fulani people. If they carried on with Ba, okay, Ba Yahya or Yahya Ba, okay, or Miriam Ba, we know them to be the Hausa people. And Yoruba as well. This is what I'm talking about. Now we have designations to know who came across the desert. It's no more just one blanket ancient Egyptians, yes, but I gave you evidence who it was. Yeah, I think this was the Yoruba language. Yes, and also the Fula, it got this as well, and the Siri people as well. I have learned my language is diaspora quite well, but there is a lot of language or I have not. Yes, because there's so much. How can we, brother? You think of the full day. How many dialects are there? There are many, right? Okay, so it's very difficult. And how about the Akan languages? There's many. I was in Eastern Ghana, and when I listened to the Ka, I could not. When I listened to the Akan, when I listened to the font, when I was in Accra, I started to pick it up very quickly. But when I went to go visit one of my ancestors, my teacher there in Eastern Ghana, in Aguzome is the village. I went there, they spoke Ga. I had a hell of a time trying to pick it up. Ga is one of the ancient languages of the Neher that was used there in Kent. See, so it's very difficult, and we cannot learn it all. Okay, I got him. How did he get back in there? Okay, indeed, the river and well system. Now I don't know what are you talking about now? I okay. I don't know what this brother's talking about here. Okay. Shebeco means net, like fishing network. Yes. Also, we use it in Spanish means network and connections and so forth in the Arabic language. We understand that. But I found out the word Shabaka, my name, also meant king as well. And also, there's another designation that I found a long time ago when they used the word Shabaka. They used a sword and meant it was the sword of Allah. They also had this designation for the word Shabaka and the people, the relationship with Shabaka and the people who were under him. And they said Shabaka and it meant the sword of Allah. There's a lot of designation. Shebeko is another name for Shabaka. Shabeka is another name. And I gave a whole list of class about a year ago of showing I don't have that, showing that map that my ancestors showed me in a dream of all the Shabaka people who left from ancient Egypt. And before I even knew any of this, I had this to draw. I had a brother here in Morocco to draw this up for me while I was still fresh. I had the names Shabeka, Shabaka, Shaban. There's a whole list of these names related to the Shabaka people. Today in Al Maghrib, we have Shabeka, Wad Shabeka. In Algeria, we have, I think what they call it, Wad Shabaka. I can't recall now. But we took names from Kempt, and when we landed in an area of West Africa, North Africa, we took names from the cities and the areas that we live, and we put those names in the areas that we now migrated to. Menfe. Menfe is in ancient Kempt, is in Ghana. We have many names, brothers and sisters, are almost the same. I could be here for many days talking about that. The ancient, the current goes way back to before this. Yes, we understand that. I don't understand what are you trying to drive at? But the origins of these caravans go back. Yes, but what caravans are you talking about? Because when there was a migration, they were not caravans, because the people migrated and they came in ethnic groups. And again, you have to look at what I was talking about. So who are you talking about now? There's no longer just the Egyptians. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about the Hausa? You talking about the Siri people? Are you talking about the Mendika Mendi? Who are you talking about? And they weren't caravans because they came across looking for places to stay because they left Messer. They left Kempt. So I still don't understand who you're talking about, my dear brother. Okay. But yeah, okay, yes. But and also, yes. And there's another name for king. Oh, man, I saw it. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, that's okay because there's so many different languages and the meaning for it. It's very difficult, but you get my drift and you understand what's going on. So I give you a recap again, brothers and sisters, and then I'll be closing up here. We talked about the Siri people here and what happened. They built these pyramids and so forth and so on. We have here the opening hymns of the fourth coming by day and night is the book they call the Book of the Dead, and Ani of the Anu people, who were the first original people of Egypt. We believe another clan of the Anu people, who they call the Sao people, came north. It's them who had interreactions with the Greeks and the Romans and intermarried them. That union of people became the Somali people and became the Fulani people because they look too much similar in appearance. And there's mannerisms and customs that we have similar to. And you heard my story when I was in Sudan. There was a Somali girl and a Fulani girl, what they call Fuleta people. I didn't know the difference. But the brother who took me to the ice cream place told me the one over here was Fuleta, meaning Fulani, other was Somali. I could not tell the difference between the two. We look too much similar. The Ethiopians, Somali, Eritreans, Somaliland, the Djibouti, we all have a similar look. And when you put a Fulani person in there, you cannot tell until he speaks that he's Fulani. So that tells me that we have the same grandfather, and that grandfather had to be the Sao. The Sao were the clan of the Anu people who came into Egypt at another time, intermarried, and we became the Fulani people, became the Sumal people, and so forth, and the Ethiopian people. We know them today. They still were black, but they had now different characteristics. Okay, we got a brother here who's got, okay, a brother Egypt, and it predated the Hausa. The Syrian people meant you cannot mix modern Islamic terms. Wait a minute. What are you talking about now, brother? What are you talking about? We're not talking about Islamic class now. I'm not doing. Okay, you know what? No. No. I don't know why these what the focus of the people to come on to do the things like this, because we're not talking about the Islamic course. And this here, anybody in Islam, we understand the concepts of Islam, and you have Tawheed, and then you have other. We understand that, and there's no time here. Me, being as I know, as a mufakkir, okay, in Islamic circles in the Arabic language, means the intellectual, whatever you want to call it, educator, okay, I know better. And you don't mix Islamic terms. I'm talking about Kaaba, where our ancient ancestors worshipped. I don't know what he's talking about, because I see in his writings he refused all this designation here that I'm talking about all the evidence about our ancient people. We're not talking about the Islamic. I talk about the Islamic, meaning that when they left camp, settled in Takrur, in the 700s, they went into Andalus. That part is true. But who's mixing the prayer of Islam, say, with what they worship, the Ka and Ba? There's no comparison, because one was Tawheed, the other wasn't. So I don't know what the brother was talking about. It's like he's a provocateur. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you, my dear brother, for your kind words. I really appreciate that. And brothers and sisters, everybody's honored here. You come, you put disagreements, no problem, but you give us evidence. But don't, we can't stop the provocateurs, because they're going to come. They're writing me a lot now. I have a lot, especially talking about Egypt. I got a lot of profane letters and so forth and so on from people who I believe or Black Tubab or Tubab themselves. But I ignore that, and so forth and so on. When they come at me, I just run them. I'm not going to bother, because they don't have no evidence for nothing. When they come in the chat, I try to be as polite as I can. But when they start now to do things, I have to move them out, because there's no room for it. See, so we're here to learn and whatnot. And we're going to always have the provocateurs. I'm not into that. And I'm not going to stand for it. And I'm going to run you, and so forth and so on. And they try to butter you up with things, then suddenly they start to come with their provocateur statements, and that's wrong. So I'm going to be getting ready to close here. I want to cover something here, and then I will. Okay, here, I wanted to go back again to this, because again, brothers and sisters, the those come late. I want us to see something here, especially my Fulani brothers and sisters, because we have a lot of contention. I have even my Fulani brothers who get angry with me, talking about you don't use Fula, you use Fulbe, you use this, and there's a lot. I'm being torn left, right, east, west, south, so forth. But our ancient Fulani people didn't use Fula or Fulbe. They used Ka, Ba, and Sao. This is what they called themselves. And we found this in Kemp on totems, like they're like a pole, and they got inscriptions on there. This is what we found. And to prove that point, in the 17th dynasty, at the end, the Fula began to take over. And who was the king? The first one was named Ka, King Ka. He was not Fulani. There was no such thing as that at that time. And again, the Sao people were an ancient people. Evidence suggests they were closely aligned with the 11 people who we know today in Ethiopia, who mixed a lot with the Fulani people, who they intermixed with. The Sahel people were from the Nubian branches. The Anu people were the original people. The Sahel people was a branch who came later. The Sahel people came up into the north and intermarried with the Greeks and Romans, and that offspring, those children began to marry with children who were similar to themselves. They became the Fula people. They became the Ethiopians. They became the Somali people. They became the Eritreans and the Djibouti and so forth and so on. This is how we got those people today. I gave you evidence for that, and I'm hoping that our brothers will see that. We have the codes again. We have something to designate. Ba was used in Kemp and in the old ancient languages. Ba was used to describe all African people. So when we knew a person came from a region, we called him Ba Takrur. You understand? We had that. We also used W at a later part in the Neher, where we start to use vowels again to mean of, them, those. Zimbabwe, meaning them, those. Sumbawa, meaning some of these. Simba, we know means in Swahili means lion. Zimbabwe, that means them, some of them over there. Zimbabwe. This is the language how they spoke in ancient times. And again, brothers and sisters, we talk about the way our ancestors believed, the way our ancestors talked, and the languages they used. So no one can come back here and say that I'm mixing Islam with this, because we talk about the ancient times. They were not Muslims. There was no such thing as Islam at that time. So we know that these were codes left by our ancestors, brothers and sisters, designation of tribe and ethnic group, coded so as to understand who and what and where. This coding was established in Kemp and carried on by the great West African exodus from Kemp. How we know that the people were Hausa? Because the Hausa people had the name, we know, if we heard, as the people traveled, we heard the name Yahyaba. We know them to be the Yoruba, we know them to be Hausa. We knew this. This is how they left this destination, brothers and sisters, so we can understand who they were. We can understand this is our ancestors, that they were black, they were African. That's how we had these designations. If another group came the next week, we saw another guy by the name of Yahya, but his first name is Ka, and the second name, proper name, is Yahya. Then we know him to be what? Fulani, and he also could be Serer and Wolof. See, so we have all of these designations, brothers and sisters. And I'm hoping when you go back, you guys see this, and you go back over this tape again and get a clear understanding how this came about. And again, we show how when our brothers moved to the south by the time of the 19th to about the 21st, our people start to move south. And you notice you have different shades of Egyptians. And this is what we're talking about. See? And we talk about the Anu people. They were the ones it was them who had the first writings on this earth, on this papyrus. And they created the fourth coming by day and night, the Book of the Dead, and Ani, again, a designation for ethnic and pride. When you read the hymns of Osiris, those hymns found its way in the Bible, these hymns were written 3,000 years before the Bible was even created. But when you read the hymns, you'll find the things in the book of coming day by day and night. You find Osiris Ani. If you talk about a person, you'll see Moses, and then you'll find if he's especially a person of truth, you'll find him Moses Ani, meaning he's the Anu people. His name is Moses, but he speaks the truth. Our people were something else. I mean, brothers and sisters, our people were something else. We know now we have this, the ethnic designation. Now you understand what we were talking about, how we got to that point. And the Anu people, we talked about the badge of honor. We talked about the Anu people. They were the first people who hit. They were Nubian people. They were the first people, and they had to be jet black in color. And I believe in history of mankind, they were the blackest. The Nubian people still today are black. Yes, some are mixed. But if you want to find the real true type Nuba people today, you find them in Sudan. They're still green and blue black. And even parts of Egypt today, they're still the same blue and green and black. I mean, green tinge to their blackness. Because when I saw those people in Sudan, those are the blackest people I ever saw. I saw some black people in the South who were my relatives when I was a little boy, but they didn't match up to the Nuba people I saw in Sudan, who were 6 times darker than me and very, very dark. The Anu people became the South. They had a group, another branch, relatives, they called the South people, and I told you what happened with them. They went to the North and intermarried. The OT is the King's List, which I'll get to maybe here in a couple of days, inshallah. I'll start to go through the King's List to explain to you about the kingdoms and why we call it the OT, and how the OT mirrors the Genesis. This is what is interesting. The Genesis gives you birth and death. It mirrors that of the OT, which was written 3,500 years before the Bible was created. How did the OT find its way in the Bible? I talked about that about a week or 2 weeks ago. Preceded the Bible about 3,000 years before the first the compilation of the Bible. So we have a lot of evidence, brothers and sisters, here to show us that Kempt was ours. And now we have designations, brothers and sisters. You know who came across. Now you know the ancient dialects that were spoken all West Africa. Most of the main dialects were spoken in Kempt. We knew that we had a designation. Again, our ancestors left us with a designation, so we know which ancestors, who left, when they left. I mean, not when they left who they were. As you heard me say, if he had the name Yahya Ba, we know it's Hausa. If he had Ka Yahya, we know he was Fulani. If we heard the name Sin Yahya, we know that this is a Siri people, Mandinka, Mende people, and Wolof people in the Senegambia region and the Takrur region. We know that. So they had this beautiful system, brothers and sisters, beautiful system. See, these designations, so we know. I'm giving you this education, so now you have this education. You can now debate and argue with our distractors who tell you that ancient Egypt was white. Now you know it was ours from the beginning. We know that, and it's still ours today. And I give you all this evidence, and it's much more. But for brevity, I just covered only a little bit. I want to see what we got here. Okay, you're here. Your information is off. So, okay, yeah, there we go. We don't even bother to deal with this. If I gave books, I gave a lot of things. There's a umpteen books. Most of these books are 300 to 500 pages, and we have the Book of the Dead. We have all this evidence today speaking about the people. Here we have also the Africans who wrote the Bible. We have a lot of proof, brothers and sisters. We have the hieroglyphics is the ultimate proof in this. We have the Ani papyrus talking about themselves, the Anu people. So these provocateurs want to come in and throw their mess in here. Let them do it. I'm not going to argue with them. We see their message and we throw them out. And because I'm getting this every single day, brothers and sisters, and on top of that, I can't show you the filth that they're sending. They're showing me now, sending me, these two Bob are sending me provocative pornography, hardcore pornography. I don't understand why YouTube don't seem to block that out. People who I've removed finding their way back in. So it goes to show you that they're all in cahoots together. But some of this pornography, I've complained. I've sent that stuff to them to show you what they send me. It's filthy. And they send that to my station, even in Facebook too. It's shameful. It's very shameful, brothers and sisters. So with that said, I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, I will close here, that we got something today out of this good lesson and talk about the people. Go back. It's very long. You guys pick your spots in there, which you feel that you want to go back again. And don't mind the provocateurs. They're going to talk. As I told you here. Here, the Tuba is told everybody around here that I'm stupid, ignorant, and what I did for a living, I just clean toilets in the United States. I don't care. I let them talk. And when the people finally come and talk to me, they see, and then they see me on YouTube too. They don't see. Well, what are you telling me? They said this man. They even told me I couldn't even read and write English. Okay, I let it go. So this is them who's doing this. I don't care. That's let them say that, because they've been saying the same thing. I remember when I was a 5-year-old little boy, I heard the same type of talk. When I told him I wanted to be a doctor, I remember what the teacher told me when I was a little boy. And so this has gone on for a long time. I ignored that. We're talking about our brothers in ancient Kemp. They don't like that because they feel Kemp is theirs. I ignore that, okay? I ignore that because Kemp is ours. It always has been ours. And I gave you evidence to show you how it was ours. And anybody, again, who wants information, there's a plethora of books, many books. There's I would recommend, there's almost between 15 to 20 books I would recommend that's covering a lot of this information. And we have Black Africans who are linguists, especially Professor Obenga. He wrote, but in French, I think they translate English, he wrote in French language. And then again, Sheikh Diop was passed on. His books, he's got translated in English. Many of these books cover a lot of this, especially about the melanin test of the skin of the ancient Egyptians. Fascinating. The evidence is there, brothers and sisters. Don't worry about the provocateurs, because whatever you say or do, it's not going to make a difference. They're going to come at you, and because that's why they're genocidal racists, and their days are coming here in Africa, and one day they will be thrown out of here. I'm hoping I'm here to see that happen and so forth in my lifetime. So, brothers and sisters, with that said, I thank everybody who showed up today. Brother Muhammad, we had sisters here, today too. I'm always glad to see that. My dear sister Constance, thank you very much. My dear sister, for showing up today. And my dear sister here, thank you very much for showing up today. We are honored here. We appreciate you. And please show up again. And our brother Muhammad, who gave us a good education on the Smile language. He talked about Ka and Ba and Annie and stuff. We had Annie, Ka and Ba. He gave us education on that to kind of verify the information about the Ka and Ba, which is a big religious beliefs and belief system. Very interesting. Ka, Ba, very interesting way our ancestors believed at one time, and whatnot. And we had our brother here, I think it's Yahya Bey. Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up today. I greatly appreciate that. And our brother Yakuba, thank you very much for showing up today, my dear brother. I really appreciate that. And so that's it from knowledge of our people. And those who show up in the future, please, my dear brothers, pass this out. Subscribe to my station. I greatly appreciate this, because you see my talks are unorthodox. You don't get this type of talk a lot on YouTube, but you're getting this from your brother. I try to give you as much of my knowledge as I can, and I'm unorthodox. I don't care about what other people are saying. I try to give you the dirty stuff. And I'm not dirty, what they consider dirty, because anything with us, they say it's dirty. Only they have the best. But I give you everything to show you the nuts and bolts of something, how Egypt was ours. We knew it as Kemt. Okay, this what we call it is Kemt, because that's what our ancient Black ancestors said the land was called Kemt, and that's what we call that. And it's not Egypt. Egypt is Greek. Egypticus. It came from the Greeks. Egypticus. The Kemites called it Kemt. The Africans call it Kemt. That's what I like to call it today, and so forth and so on. Okay, my dear brothers and sisters, Salam alaikum. Rahmatullahi wabarakatuh.